Please.
All right, we will go ahead and get started. So it is 12:02. Okay. My phone this is the first time we're using Teams, so have some redundancies. All right, so let's start with roll call. I'll hand it to Lori.
Dawn Harper.
Here.
Jody Scott. Here. Dr. Robinson. Angel Meredith.
Here remotely.
So quiet.
Kylie Rathman. Chris Mitchell. Connie Shiley. Jim Bremner.
Here.
Greg Cassidy.
Here.
Shelley Entrickand.
Here.
Barb Long. Audra Miles.
Here.
Joe Coffin. Craig Boynton. Anna Fuchs. David Luders.
Here.
Mary Patton. Tracy Dowell. Shannon Peterson. Here. Megan Brake. Tyler Rogers. Troy Maxwell.
We do not have a quorum, but we can move forward. Okay, so I'll name everyone else who's here. I'm going to start online because that's where I started looking. I see a Tina. Can you introduce yourself and what organization are you with?
Hi, I'm Tina Toner, and I'm from IVSIL.
Okay, thank you for coming. Let's see. So I see Angel, Shelley. I see a Casey Anderson. Do you say where are you from?
It's Carrie, and I am from Stonehayes Center for Independent Living in Galesburg.
Okay, Carrie, thank you. And then we have somebody on the phone, and maybe I couldn't remember if you said who you are, but if you're on the phone, could you say your name? And then we've got Jared Arthur from Snyder Village. We have Melissa Orwell from IDOT. I guess we have us here staff. My name is Rima Abukari. You all know me from Tri-County. We have Lori Reynolds, also from Tri-County. Going around the room. Why don't you three introduce yourselves on that table there?
My name is Matt Crutcher. I'm at the Tri-County Regional Planning Commission. Started about 2.5 weeks ago.
I'm Jody Vanderheydt from CEPCO, Special Education Bureau Accounting Transition Specialist. Allison Borland from CEPCO, Transition Teacher.
Thanks everyone for coming. So we will move right along. So does anyone have any public comment? Okay. Sounds good. So moving to approval of the minutes. We cannot do this because we don't have a quorum today, but does anyone have any comments on the minutes? Any changes? So we can do these next time, although I will say, in terms of the Open Meetings Act, we are not required to approve minutes from a meeting that did not have a quorum. So for the next, I think, let's see, it was a while back, but at one point, maybe last year, we were up to a set of 3 minutes in one packet, and it was just kind of large. So the next one, I think we'll stick with just the 2, but we can not include the August 6th minutes because, or actually, I'm sorry, we cannot include the October 1st minutes because there was no quorum that was confirmed at that one. So just letting you all know, if you would prefer to approve all the minutes, that's okay too. Just let me know. Good. Okay. So moving on to agenda item number 4, which is the HSTP document update. So I'm going to share this on screen and share it with the room as well. This way because sometimes when I make it full screen we get issues. So we can all see it well here. So this is something that I sent everyone in the email with the packet, and we have been updating our maps for the whole HSTP region. We also did the same process for just the urbanized region, urbanized area, so Peoria Beacon, East Peoria. I will not show these today, but I can send them afterwards if anyone is interested. So these will show the side by side, and it is kind of hard to see just simply because the region is so large. But so this is part of our HSTP document update. So normally, at least in the past, we've had to update our HSTP document. This is the actual plan that that goes through things like goals, demographics, maps, and identifies gaps and issues in our region. So basically a document that we can use for this meeting and just as a talking point, but also is a requirement for this process. So as part of the document, we have these maps, and they show the demographics. So these are all census data from ACS, which is the American Community Survey, and actually they're both ACS. So the last time we updated our plan was 2023, and the reason why we have an update so soon, we used to do it every 4 years, but IDOT has asked us to do another update. I did at one point earlier this year. I confirmed that we don't need to overhaul the whole document. That takes a lot of work on our end. We will still do it in a couple years, but this update will be for demographics and also for surveys. So we did do both of those. So you can kind of see, I'll go through, there's 8, and they represent different demographic groups. So we're going to start with population with a disability, and you can kind of see the different areas. Again, I will send this afterward. It might be hard to see on the screen here. But there's similarities and differences. In some cases, the maps have not changed much. The darker areas have a higher concentration of each of these populations. So in this case, people with disabilities. And then when we have our document published, then we can choose to focus on these areas as much as we can. So the map on the right is the updated version. We went from 2020 census data to 2022. And so there are some changes here. So we can see this one is population considered minority. So these are ethnicities, race and ethnicity in this map. And that just the higher concentrations and even the medium concentrations here, for example, in North Fulton counties, that has changed. We've got some in North Knox. So it's interesting to see these side by side. Just the fluctuation over the years. So this is 0 vehicle households. Whole one again is on the left. The new one is on the right. You can see kind of more in the middle. So yeah, the concentrations have changed. Interestingly, we see North Knox and Sarka Marshall have the biggest change. And I say big, but these are percentages, so it depends on the population that was already there versus the population what there is there now. Moving to population below poverty line, we can still see it is most concentrated in the more urbanized areas. However, there are large swaths in rural sections that we need to focus on as well. Next one here, population 65 years and older. I will say that all of these maps, and you'll see at the very last map on here, there's 8 of them. They are all the populations that we focus on when we meet here. So seniors, people with disabilities, and anyone who would need extra assistance with getting public transportation or just getting places in general. And so we can see there's kind of more colors in some of these rural areas up and around. We have a couple more population who are veterans, and this one is kind of harder to see. This one is pretty interspersed throughout the whole region. Again, the darker colors, higher concentration. And some areas are still here, but there's just a little bit more. This is the last of the main demographic groups. We have population under 18. So these are also, youth, and many of them cannot drive as well. So we added them as well. And this one did not change too terribly much. Good look at that one. Now this is the final map. So this one involved some analysis that our GIS folks did in our Tri-County office. So basically we took all of the 7 maps and all the demographics that we've seen throughout the whole region, and this map shows the concentration when we put them all together. So we're calling this the transit-dependent population. So areas that have many of those factors, so a high or medium-high concentration of more than one of each of those 7 maps that we just saw. So interestingly, we have a whole lot of Canton that wasn't covered in the map from last time. We have more of Knox County. Is that Marshall up there? So yeah, you can explore this on your own and where you can zoom in. But just want to show you that we've been doing work to update our document, and these will go in the document. And the last part of the document update is the surveys. So we released those in the summer, and we've kept them open, but admittedly we did not do a great job getting responses. Thank you for everyone who responded. I know that some folks in this room helped with that, but we received 17 survey responses. Not great, but that's what it is this year. So because there's not quite enough to warrant analysis, we're going to integrate those in with the last round of surveys that we did. So we've done them, and we will strive to do better next year. But that is another part of this document update. So when we meet in February, I can give you all a draft of the final document, or we'll have to see the timing, but I'll have a draft of the document that will have these new maps in them. It'll include the survey responses, and it'll just be a fresh update aspect. Does anyone have any questions there about maps or anything like that? Moving on to agenda item number 5, which is the bylaws suggested changes. I'm going to stop sharing briefly. So this is in your packet. Let's see. Ooh, next time I will number the pages, but it's the last few pages here. And I was looking through the bylaws, I don't know, earlier last month, and I found that there were places that we could improve. So these are some small updates that I am bringing to the committee. We're not going to vote today because you've never seen them before. So we will likely have these to vote for in February, if possible. So I'll just go through each section. There are small enough changes, but worth updating as we continue on. So on the first page, we have Article 1, Section D. So I realized that there was nothing in these that actually defined the populations that we focus on. So I just added to that, and I named people with disabilities, older individuals, people with low incomes, veterans, and other populations who may benefit from extra transit assistance. So that's added there. Under membership, I specified county governments. That's something, again, that they already participate here. I just wanted to name them. And then one thing I flagged within Article 3, subsection A, number 3, we currently have it written up to 2 members to represent the region as a whole to be appointed by the rest of the committee. So this is something that we do not currently do. So these would essentially be at-large appointees. We could keep this here to have the option to do it, even if we choose not to, or we can decide to remove it since we are not doing that. Does anyone have any thoughts? Would you want to keep it or remove it? Potential at-large members.
Keeping the flexibility doesn't seem to do any harm. Or it'd be harder to add it to the bylaws than to worry about it. Just leave it as a possibility.
That makes sense to leave it in for now?
Could be 0.
Right.
Until you decide.
Exactly. Okay. And we don't have to fully have this conversation now, but are we interested in going that route? Kind of a big question to add 2 new people. It will add to the quorum, but it could be helpful. I don't know. Maybe. This is tough because they will. It says to be appointed by the rest of the committee. So I guess that would mean if anybody thinks of somebody who's not currently on the committee who could benefit. We do have folks who come every time who are not on the committee.
Let's get a quorum if we have people who are in consistent attendance. You'd be able to vote on things.
Okay, keep it in your mind. We'll think more about it. And if anybody's interested in being an at-large member, you can let me know. We can bring it up. Okay. Moving on to the next page. It's still in Article 3 membership, but within the vacancies and absences, number 1 and 4. So currently, as it's written, it is written with the rural subcommittee in mind, because we focused on if there's a vacancy on the committee, remaining committee members, the respective county board chair, or HSTP staff shall recommend a new member. So for the urban members, they are appointed through our Tri-County Regional Planning Commission technical and policy committees. So I just added that language in. Again, we already do this. Normally it's me or the county board chair who recommends a new member, whether it's rural or urban. But we'll have the option of the same equivalent with the urban area. So added that in. In the voting section, I just kind of clarified that number 1, where it currently says each HSTP Region 5 committee member will have 1 vote, except where noted, kind of mysterious. So I've just put C number 3 regarding shared seats. And number 3 specifies if a seat is shared and both representatives are present, only 1 vote will be recorded for that seat. So that's really already written in there, but you have to read a little bit more to understand number 1. And then moving on to these blue numbers. So this just means that we combined number 4 with what used to be number 5. I specified that any member can have someone come in for 1 meeting at a time using a proxy form. We already do this. It's available on our Tri-County website, or you can email me and ask for it. So I just named the proxy form. A lot of these we're already doing this, let's write it down. And then that new number 5, the blue number 5 there, I just wrote out at the Illinois Department of Transportation, Office of Intermodal Project Implementation, which is a long way to say I.OIPI, but it was not defined already in there. Okay, and then jumping down to Article 4, meetings. So this, there was an update to the Open Meetings Act this year, 2024. So they allowed 1 more reason for someone to join online and be accepted to be part of the quorum, to be allowed to vote if there is a physical quorum in the room. And so this new law within the Open Meetings Act allows unexpected childcare obligations as a reason to join online. Regardless with this, if we have a quorum in person, we will vote to allow online members to join. So this is, again, just updated the language based on this new law. And then I did remove that first sentence in the last paragraph. I felt that the second sentence said exactly that. Phone and virtual attendees can vote on agenda items that require a vote if there is a physical quorum present. So the first sentence to me was kind of redundant.
Hey, Rima, can I point out a possible issue that you might have?
Wait, hold on. You are very low here. Let me see if I can change the volume. Try that again.
Hey, Rima, this is Craig Boynton with Galesburg. Can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. One thing I wanted to point out is if you have the 2 at-large members that you might add at a later date, would you need to specify whether they are rural or urban so that you're meeting your criteria for in-person candidates for a quorum? For example, when you have enough people for urban, you can have the urban folks vote, but if they're not designated as urban or rural, how would you define them?
That's a great question. Does anyone, I have a general thought, but does anyone feel strongly? My initial thought is they would be in their own category, but that does open up a question.
Or could they be designated as with a majority at that meeting so that it would help your number for making sure you have a quorum?
Yeah, maybe since we're talking about bylaws, we could specify where they could be, which category they would fall into.
I think if you have an even number of two, maybe it'd be one urban.
Then wouldn't that defeat the purpose of at large? It's a good idea though. That's a question. I like that question, but I don't because it's confusing.
Sorry.
No, that's good. Good to think about. Yeah, in my mind, they would be their own category because if they would be lumped together in either one, then we might as well just add new people to the rural or the urban. Well,
So that they could be a part of the quorum for the full committee, but they wouldn't assist on being a part of the quorum if we're having to drop to the smaller committee for voting.
I think so. That would be my initial thought. But honestly, if we write it in the bylaws the way that makes the most sense, then as long as we follow that, then that will be the rule. Yeah. Another thing that I suggested to change that I didn't mention within the membership, since we're talking about the membership again, it used to say up to 2 members per county for rural, and then up to 7 members for urban. And I felt that that was a little bit vague, but that would mean if we keep it as written, then that would mean that we could have only 1 member per county, or we can have fewer than 7 in the urban. Which is another difficult question. I felt that it made more sense to me to just specify 2 members per county, 7 members for urban. But if we feel it's helpful to keep it open, we can. But luckily, we can think about this until the next meeting. And if anyone has specific thoughts, please feel free to email me and call me. These were just my thoughts after going through these. If you see anything else that is unclear or should be updated, then we can do it at the same time. All right. Well, in that case, we will move forward to agenda item number 6, which is the meeting location. And I will share my screen one more time. This one I did not share in advance because we had some extra responses come in at the last minute, which is great. Okay, so I shared a link in my last email and one before then to show different options for potentially holding a meeting at different locations. And this is definitely a sticky subject because there is no one option that will make everybody happy. So the idea is, in my mind, the goal is not necessarily to get the most people, but to be able to spread, to be able to have the folks who currently drive a lot, to give them a little bit of a break. So those are my thoughts on the goal of how we can help. So I received responses from 8 or 9 people, and you didn't have to put your name, but for those who put their name, I just identified where they were from. So we had people, actually, it's on my sheet here. So people responded from Peoria, Fulton, Tazewell, and Marshall counties. So not quite the whole region, but we can think about that as we look through these options. And from those counties and from the peoples who made those decisions, and it is kind of hard to see here, but I will list. So the top locations that were selected, there are 3 colors. So the blue is definitely. So we asked, would you be able to attend a meeting in this location if we had it there? And the options were definitely yes. The red is if needed, so not the best for me, but I will be willing to go. And then the yellow is just too high of a travel burden. So the highest here was Peoria. And then we have tied for second, we have Metamora here in the middle, and then East Peoria at the end. So we're looking mainly at the blues, definitely yes. But then something else to note is the yellows. So these are the definitely no's. So we do have at least one definitely no for all of these cities. But this meeting is talking about transportation, so it's very relevant. So for Metamora, we have 2 people who say definitely no. That is farther. It's a lot farther for folks in Canton, for example. And then East Peoria, we have just 1 person that is definitely no, although East Peoria is very close to where we currently are. So would it be worth going to East Peoria? Maybe. But that is just the beginning of this discussion. So again, we can look at the numbers all we want, but also we won't find one great solution. So even if we pick a second or third location, maybe somebody else will be burdened, but at least they won't be every single time. So that's what we're hoping for. I also asked, how many locations are you interested in? So some folks, that the tie for number 1, people either said 2 or 3. And then the next selected answer was 5 or 6. So we move around each time. Now that I've thought about that one, I feel like it'd be too much. It's a neat idea, but if we want to have virtual options, we would have to figure out the logistics of that every time at every location. So that would be tough. But does anyone have initial thoughts about either this graph or really anything about the locations?
Based on the data you have here from the responses, I think you'd be better off just sticking with Peoria.
I was gonna say too, Peoria is like a main, no matter what, like Metamora, I'm from Metamora, so where we get like you can come to Snyder Village, be that SP hall, but logistics of that would be determined on like schedule time within that facility. And then Peoria, or East Peoria, like I said, is just down the road, so there's really no, you just go over a bridge and that's that. I don't know how people for you that way you could be just there and then do the logistics of that. And then Canton, that's not bad, you know what I'm saying? Like they were showing more love that way, traveling for that transportation for them, that how many members are you screening that that is farther. And then also too, we're like vital members here that need to be here. I know you need to be here, you need to be here, he needs to be here, but other than that, like who needs to be here? Like that's vital to attendance core. Yeah, to attend this forum. Like, am I needed too much? I don't know. But like, it's still nice to be here. But who's gonna contribute the most to you to help this out? So I think that kind of correlates into like transportation.
If you were to move it to another location, do you have a meeting place in each of those locations? Or would that have to be prearranged with each location? Just more logistics on you.
You know, one thing that I've heard from a couple of members that people with disabilities is that the accessibility to get into the building, the bus, dropping off, sidewalk and everything is also an issue. So I think, you know, if you normally go that there's a physical forum that they have to be online because they can easily access the building and get there, that's a whole other issue as well.
Unless you trade up the physical forum to just a whole virtual forum, which I don't know if that's even productive in itself, because obviously all of them together physically, but I don't know. That would be the choice if you go to a location you want everyone to be there, and it would be less of an excuse.
So because this is like an established committee, we have to go by the Open Meetings Act. That is what I'm chained to. It's lovely to see everyone's face, but we have to have a physical quorum, unfortunately. That's just what the law states. So we are allowed to have people online, but there's all of these very specific things, and that's with the child care thing. It was a new thing within that law. So unfortunately, we can't bring it all online. We briefly did during COVID, and that was very helpful. So I will, to respond to your vital members, I'm going to say that everyone is vital because we would love to have everyone available, and I can move. So I mean, it's convenient for me because my office is down the hall, but potentially we can go somewhere else. Now there's logistics involved. One thing I did think of, I'll throw it out because this is, I think the idea is to be as creative as we can. So back in the day, years ago, we used to serve lunch, and if it were me and I had to drive 45 minutes, then I would love to at least have lunch. But we can't do that because that's not an allowable expense for IDOT. Unfortunately, I would love to be able to serve lunch again. So some people on the online survey said, well, what if we bring snacks? I did bring snacks, by the way, today because it's cold outside and it's not fun to travel. So we can potentially bring snacks. If any of your organizations are willing to cover that cost, that would be great. So that's one option that some people said. Some folks said, let's just meet at a restaurant, which is a good idea except for the virtual option. That would introduce a lot of noise that would not work, unfortunately. But one idea that I had that maybe is like somewhere around the issue, but doesn't exactly solve it. So we could have a couple, I'll call them meetings, let's call them like local discussions in areas that are farther from Peoria. So maybe something in Canton, something in Galesburg, Marshall and Stark. And we could maybe pick one meeting in the year that we cancel, and instead, like, I go to Canton. We talk to all the Canton people, and if anybody else wants to come, sure. And that we can have in a restaurant because that wouldn't be considered it wouldn't be considered an official meeting, and that would be allowable because we would not have a quorum in person. So then I could also go to Stark Marshall County and go to Galesburg. So then that would mean that for that one meeting, we won't need everyone to drive that month, but instead I would go to those locations. And also anyone else would be invited if they want to come. Then we could talk about those local issues, and then at the next HSTP meeting, I can report back to say, well, this is what these folks said. And we could do more than just once a year, but that's an idea.
As far as within that month or within like a quarter?
I mean, it's up to us how many meetings we want to have. We like even these days we can cancel an HSTP meeting if we want. I haven't done it recently. Just I don't know why. Sometimes there's things that it's nice to talk about, but we can always cancel a meeting. So if we take out one meeting, we save the drive for that one at least for our folks that are farther away. And instead, I would go to them. And we could do it. I mean, I could go more than just that one time, too. I could do it twice a year. And that maybe I could talk to those specific people about as well. But that was my idea that still, like, circumvents the OMA without breaking the law. Allows us to be kind of a more informal group. And brings a focus to each of those local areas, which I have gotten feedback that we talk about urban issues a little too much here. So I would love to learn more about the urban or about the rural areas, so I can have better content for all of our people.
Just as far as locations, you know, if you do kind of on the road or places, obviously there's schools in every single one of these that would be a meeting spot because they're going to have the technology, especially usually one room or even a computer lab at other spots. So every district's got
Okay.
pretty much one spot anywhere. Or if as our agencies are spread out, like, you know, our CFO boardroom would be a possibility. So depending on our resources within this group, we may have other places too.
Okay.
Who is your target market at these like meetings if you were to take them on the road? Is it other like us who are, you know, work within the community and we represent an agency or a business, or are you looking for feedback from the like public?
Don't you have those anyways though? Like public, you have those.
Yeah, that's true. My initial thought is my focus would be the committee members, since you all are like appointed, and anyone else who would want to come, who already comes. So I guess the public, while they're always welcome to come, maybe not a priority for that. But if we feel that we should make them more public, then we can. That's my initial thought. So I would think that for this purpose, it would be more internal. But if we want to do more public meetings, then we can do that as well.
Kind of backtrack a little bit, I guess, and just try to wrap my mind. So with the part of the meeting is that we're having a hard time getting a forum because our area is so spread out.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the you going someplace would be great, but that still doesn't get us a quorum. So that's where I'm kind of stuck at.
Right.
Is that the quorum is what really we're looking for. So what's the best way to get the quorum? And as a result of the survey say Peoria is, but obviously that's not reality because we're still not getting the quorum.
You're right. That's the issue.
Within this, is there any way to emphasize like the thing of this meeting so that you can have your voice, regardless if you or you're not? Because that's what people want physical members to be ready to have that. So if this is like, I can't take it today.
So that's already in the bylaws. Just so
I
many meetings.
thought I just read that.
Please.
Yeah, so we're
Here.
And then each agency gets into their own budgetary things. They have a budget for somebody to travel, for instance, from Galesburg to Peoria every time.
Right.
And not only is it the budget for the mileage, it's also the time allotment. So it takes them an hour to get here, an hour to get back, and that's 2 hours, 3 hours of the time to the meeting. So
It's kind of like they block. That's like, kind of defeats happy to be here at the same time. So
We can ask if they can change
It would be unsuccessful. Yeah, no, this is, I guess one other idea that I had, we could, since we have, let's see, so the ones in the top, we have Peoria, Metamora, East Peoria, and also Canton. It's one under, but Canton is below. So we could consider, we split it up into 3. So we have 2 meetings at each location, 2 in Peoria, 2 on the east side, so Metamora, and then 2 in Canton. We would have to work closely with our partners in each of those areas to figure out a location, but maybe we can look into the schools. I didn't think of that. Or libraries.
We have 4 county representatives, so you can even just say that you have 1 in each county or 2 in each county. That's a way to kind of summarize it.
Could be an option. So I recognize that extends the drive for some, especially Canton if you live in the east, and more if you live in the west.
Does the Open Meetings Act allow for a satellite in-person location so that you could have this location in person and a second one going on that's linked with a representative there? Does it? I mean, that would have 2 in-person spots. I don't know if it allows for that or not.
That's a great idea. I don't think so, because to me that is one of them is like, to be connected you need a virtual line, and so you would have to count some as virtual.
In 2 places would count as that or not.
Yeah, I don't think so, but that is a creative thought, so I appreciate it. Would we be interested in exploring another meeting in the east, another meeting in the west? If we don't have to write this as our, we don't have to be married to it, but
I think it's worth a try. Getting the results, try something new, maybe it will have different.
well, I will look into it, and I'll talk to our friends in the different locations. I will say, I mentioned Galesburg earlier, and they are very low. And I've talked to folks from the Galesburg. They're not here today, but they told me that they really like the drive. So it's a non-issue for them, which was a happy surprise, I guess. Okay, so this we'll pencil it in, and I'll see what it works. Worst case, it doesn't work that well, and we say, okay, well, we tried to make it better for some people.
It was me on the 2 camp meetings. I'm not driving an hour and 15 minutes each way.
That's totally understandable. What if we just start with 1 in each? Let's do. So let's see. We have February, March, April, May, June. So we can try. I can pick some. I'll run some dates past or people in each of these regions, and maybe we just do 1 in each of those other 2 locations. Feel it out close to the beginning of the year, and then we'll at least have an idea, and maybe we will consider that like non-meeting discussion if that different meeting location doesn't work as well. Okay. So yeah, unfortunately, each time we will lose some people. That's just what it is. There's not one good place. There, again, we can see Peoria is great, but there's also people who struggle to get here. Okay. All right. Well, thank you for your discussion. I think that was helpful. we will try. Yeah, like I said, the goal here is great to have more people, but also we don't want to keep the burden on the same people every time. Okay. Any other thoughts about meeting locations?
I thought your survey, this is Chris Mitchell, I thought your survey was really well written when you asked about this. So can we turn in any extra ideas after this meeting?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, feel free to, I can keep it open. I don't have to close it. And anyone can reach out to me separately about that too. Thanks, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
All right, go ahead, Jared.
So like, this is usually with planning like a month-to-month basis. Like as far as like planning it, it's not like, okay, in January, like this is, we're going till December. You know what I'm saying? It's like planned out. And you can be like, okay, in the summertime, like I got, the east side and the west side that I'm going to go to because it's feasible in the summer, it's warmer. I guess it depends on the weather. I mean, that's just small things. But like, they know if that's how you did it. Like, if you looked out the whole year or if you did it like, okay, it's December, now it's January, let's switch it up for February, now we're going to switch it up for Wednesday or, March or whatever. Just trying to get my head around that.
Yeah, so we have set dates. So we will, which I guess that's up, I'm not going to open up that can of worms today because we already talked about it a lot. But that's just how we've always done it, is the even numbered months on the first Tuesday. We can consider changing that at any time. That's just what we've done. But those are the set dates. In terms of what to talk about in each one, it would be great if we could schedule certain presentations for certain locations. I guess it comes down to some things just come up that I can throw on the agenda. But if it's helpful to plan specific agenda items, like we find a presentation from some group and we schedule them for that specific day. So maybe if it's a further meeting and people know what they're going to hear about, then that would help. So that's a good idea. Well, thanks everyone. That was helpful. I appreciate your feedback. And we're getting close. Okay, so next item that we just plowed right through, I realize is normally our longest thing, which is the provider and agency updates. I'll say right now, if anyone needs to leave at the top of the hour, please feel free to do so, or whenever you need to. Are we okay with just moving forward with the agenda? I know it's normally we end at 1. This is going on much longer, but it's a great discussion. Is it okay if we just go through the updates, and feel free to leave if you need to leave? All right, so the next one, we'll go ahead and start in the room and go in order. So go ahead, Greg.
We did take possession of the buses from the CBP grant, and everything else.
Nice, that's great. Anything to report?
Nothing at this time. No.
I got so vehicles are being built as we speak. We're going to go on delivery dates as we're starting to get production schedules from vendors. Keep an eye out for getting contracts from IDOT for those vehicles. Next CPP application would be spring and summer 2025. On the note of meeting attendance, attending these HSTP meetings is something required to participate in the CPP program. That is something that we are looking at as far as prior attendance in these meetings from all agencies in Illinois. This next application cycle. So we'll also have a class on the application like we have in the past for the CPP application as well.
Jim.
I don't have anything new at this time.
All right.
I don't have anything new either.
We were down to one lift van, and it went down. The lift broke on that, so still able to do wheelchair transport as long as it's not the big wheelchair. Last I knew, we were still waiting on parts for it.
Nice.
We got 2 new vans on order that we haven't heard anything about. So.
Is that through IDOT or separate? Yeah.
Nothing to report.
We'll go on to Allison.
Nothing new at CPO on my end. I was at this is just kind of a little tidbit. I was at a meeting this morning, the Youth Services Network panel, which is agencies that provide youth services throughout the area. And Truancy was there and talking about kids not making it to school, all ages. I mean, even kindergartners not making it to school, and somebody asked what seemed to be one of the variables or the trouble getting them to school, and interestingly enough, it came up transportation, even there. And those are school bus routes and just even things, well, especially those neighborhoods where if you're within a mile and a half of the school, they don't have to provide transportation, and then they're not safe neighborhoods to walk in, especially with little people going by themselves, parents have to work, those sorts of things. Or the lack of bus drivers, which we see across the board with everywhere, that shortage. And then another thing was even where the bus stops are for those that get transportation, crossing busy roads, busy highways for especially younger kids. I just thought it was interesting that this group, we've obviously talked about that a lot, but even though we work in schools, I hadn't thought about even those with designated transportation and bus routes still being a problem, getting kids to school. So I just thought that was, just make a note. I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but one of those things that we see it across the board. The other thing that is not at all related to this group, but if you don't mind me sharing, another group that we're a part of, we sponsor a career summit every year for students, high school students with disabilities, and tomorrow night we're having a fundraiser at Avani's. Any of the Avani's, because we cover Tazewell, Mason, Woodford, and Peoria County schools. So all 4 Avani's, if you go there and you take one of these little coupons and present it with your order, then they will donate 15% to our fundraiser. So I'll leave those over by the door. So, and then you get to eat. You you're contributing, so you don't have to cook.
All right. Well, I will move to our online folks. First one on my list is Audra. Do you have anything to share?
No updates. Thank you.
How about Tina? Do you want to share anything about what your organization is doing? Still muted here. Let's move on to Angel.
Good afternoon. Just the usual over here with City Lift and County Link. As probably we all are, still short on staff. And now we have, of course, the winter season with the flu and sick days and things of that nature. So we're struggling, but we're making the buses hit the road, so we're happy about that. The weather yesterday was kind of a shocker for not so much us. We did really well, but it was the other drivers that we're driving for, which I know the other providers have experienced as well, I'm sure. I was very proud of my drivers yesterday for some of the things that they encountered and how they handled it. So good job for professional drivers out there. Other than that, we are also waiting on CVP vehicles. Last I heard, it could be up to a year or more based on trying to get inspections done through the state. So fingers crossed that can get moved along, because we are going to be really struggling on our county side. Some of those vehicles are in pretty rough shape and well beyond their useful life. So that's pretty much it for now.
Thank you, Angel. How about Shelley?
No new updates. Thank you.
Okay, how about, make sure. Carrie's next.
It's my first time attending this meeting, so I have no updates.
All right, that's perfectly fine. How about Craig?
I apologize for not being able to be there in person today. We actually have our consultants here that are giving us their final findings for their transit study that they've completed over the last year with Galesburg, with the potential for us to go countywide with Knox County. So we're excited about the findings with that. We will be implementing new software in the first quarter of 2025 for dispatching, which will also allow us to have updated application for our fixed route riders for knowing where the bus is and where to get on the bus at. And then we are partnering with the Hunger Collaborative Group here locally, which has a grant from the Galesburg Community Foundation. So we've renewed that grant this year to where we are providing ridership for all Knox County Housing Authority residents with identification. They simply get on the bus for free, and we are reimbursed through this grant. And the program has worked out so well that the Galesburg Community Foundation is actually working with Warren County, and Warren County will be transporting their individuals and housing to Galesburg that need to shop and stuff like that so that they can utilize our fixed route system.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Nice. Okay, well, I think that's everyone for updates. And so the next thing here is my coordinator report. I will keep it very short. I will share one thing though. So this, and some of you might have seen this, this is a GIS map, an online, a web map. There's some history behind this. Tri-County used to update this consistently, but then people left and contracts didn't get renewed. So long story short, we had this dormant for a while, and it wasn't accurate. So we have met with some local groups to try and make it fix the issues. So this is basically, we're calling it Tri-County Transit Providers. We're attempting to make this really for the, actually we should call it HSTP Transit Providers because it's for the whole region. So then if you click on certain colors, you could see, for example, Fulton County, it will show Fulton County Rural Transit. The tricky bits come into the urbanized area. That's why we've met with some local folks here in Peoria and also in Tazewell Woodford to help make sure that this is accurate. So this is, I can share this link with all of you now. There are still bugs. So if you see something like, oh, wow, how can they get that wrong? Please let us know, because there are things that turns out, and I'm not a GIS person, but we talked to our GIS specialists in our office, and they said, oh, yeah, that's an easy fix. So please let us know if there's something wrong. And just to let you know, so yeah, you can zoom in here, and it shows, for now, just the Peoria bus routes. We would love to have that. Eventually for Galesburg, I have not approached anyone in Galesburg yet about this. We're trying to tackle this this bear of an issue in Peoria because it's more complicated. But you can see there's different, if you click up at the top here, there's different layers that you can turn on and off. So if I wanted to turn off different components for the buses in Peoria, then I could do that. And so, for example, now, right, Galesburg is just showing, in general, we have the paratransit, we have Galesburg Transit, but eventually we'll also get with them there to maybe add the routes. So pretty much anyone could use this. And it could be for the public as well. Not that we don't want to share it necessarily, but there are still bugs. So I'm going to share this with the group, and you can please tell me what is wrong so we could start to fix any issues, and then we can actually use this very specifically if there's a question about a certain address that is covered or not by specific transit. And then hopefully when Knox County expands their transit in the future, then we will add that as well. So this is a really neat feature. I am not a mapper. I've learned a lot helping with this, but it's mostly our GIS folks that have been doing a lot of the work. So just wanted to show that to you all. And then very quickly, the IDOT is still, as far as I know, still accepting surveys for Next Move Illinois, which is a statewide transit plan. Months ago, I took these from one of my IDOT contacts, and so these you could put in a bus or you could put in an office. I'm here to give them away. Take them if you like. I have a couple pens. So these are they're like long advertisements. And I think actually that's all I have. It's just the two things. And does anyone have anything for other before we adjourn?
Rena, I just have a question. This is Angel. Not even a question, I'm sorry, a comment. I just want to thank you and your GIS geniuses for doing all this mapping. It's something that I hope I can speak for we care, but we have been asking or wanting this for a long time, not so much as asking because of everything that's been going on the past few years, but really they did an amazing job and we're so excited to have this back and to be working with it. So thank you to you and your GIS team for taking care of that. We really all appreciate it.
Thank you, Angel. We're glad to help. Yeah, Angel and some other folks told us about this this map, and we didn't realize that it was still being used. It was kind of abandoned. So we're very happy to be able to manage it now. And was there someone else online? I thought I heard another voice.
It's Chris Mitchell. I want to say that my city lift experience has been consistently good for the last couple of months. And Angel, I know that's not always easy, but thank you. And I did fill out the survey that was marked for November 20th, but I can't do maps in my disability. I can't read them effectively, so I did not do that part of the survey. And I don't exactly know how to ask for help about it. But I'm really glad for this new opportunity. I will ask my computer specialist to help me look at it. So I hope I didn't, exclude myself from the survey by not answering the map questions. But please let me know later if I need to do something more. I'll be happy to do it. So thanks for listening.
Thank you, Chris. And yeah, you're good with the survey. I just realized that I didn't ask you for an update, so thank you for making yourself known there. Okay, well, our next... Yep, go ahead.
Save everybody.
Yes, definitely. Our next meeting is all the way in February, so Tuesday, February 4th at noon. And I hope the weather is better. If the weather is not good, then we will cancel it. We don't need to be driving in this weather. But so I will update everyone as that date gets closer. And thank you all for your patience and thoughts today. And I'm sorry it went over, but we had a really good discussion. So see you next time. I will adjourn.
Thank you.